Hi, I'm Josh McGrath.
I'm Andrew Haas.
And this is the Ardent Pursuit Podcast. It's not uncommon for someone to hire a coach to help them with fitness, money, leadership, and business. And generally, we admire that. The higher the stakes, the faster we bring in outside help. But when it comes to dating and marriage, suddenly men are told they should just figure it out on their own. No training, no framework, just instincts, attraction, and hope for the best. But that's not confidence, that's negligence. And considering what's actually at stake in relationships, that mindset is costing men more than they want to admit. Andrew, today we are talking about the importance of bringing in outside counsel and advice. You know, we're using the term coaching today. That would be a common term we use today. But really what we're talking about is bringing in a third party, an objective party, to help you navigate the unknowns and complexities of a relationship.
And this won't be a new topic to people who've listened to our stuff in the past, but it is worth kind of unpacking a little more because it is so important for guys to wrap their head around the idea of receiving input and advice from other men.
We recognize culturally that coaches are needed and helpful. Here's some areas where coaching is oftentimes acceptable and sought after. So you've got things like life coach, career coach, financial coach, fitness and health coach. And the list goes on. There's actually many, many areas that people will pursue hiring a coach to help them. And that is viewed as being very intentional. A man who hires a leadership coach, because he's a CEO, that's viewed as, wow, he wants to grow as a leader. He wants to grow as a CEO. People don't view that as saying, wow, you're really weak, bro. You clearly can't be CEO. There's a recognition that hiring a coach in different areas of your life to better yourself, to help you grow as an individual, as a leader, that's accepted and culturally very normal.
And in so many areas, we do see coaching as a good and healthy thing. I listen to Dave Ramsey occasionally, and he offers incredible financial wisdom, often because that's something that I lack. That's a good thing. When men are weak in one area, when they lack in one area, it's normal and expected to seek out someone who knows more. That is normal, good, healthy behavior for men to normalize and walk in. For guys to receive outside input on a regular basis, that's actually like a fundamental marker of a healthy man.
And we tend to do that often as men. I think about just different areas of our lives when it comes to, say, like your car breaks down. If you're not the guy who knows everything about cars, you're probably going to call the car guy in your friend group. If you're purchasing a computer, I know you're one of my go-tos for all things Mac. And so if I've got a question about a type of computer or type of iPhone and whether I should be purchasing it, I'm going to go to the guy who knows about Macs to ask those questions in order to get input to determine what product should I be purchasing. And so we kind of do it naturally in our lives in many different arenas and areas. And for some of us, we'll be more intentional. We will hire a coach. I hired many years ago a leadership coach. And so he met with me every week. We did it for about 12 months, I think, maybe a little longer. And eventually we moved to every other week. And he would just sit down with me and we would look at my life. We'd look at my work. We'd look at my decision-making process. And he would analyze it, and then we'd have discussions on it, and then he'd point out areas of weakness. He'd point out bad habits. He would identify patterns that needed to change. He would identify areas I needed to grow in and pursue in order to level up as a leader. And at no point did I think, wow, I'm a total failure of a leader. This is why I hired a leadership coach. I hired a leadership coach because I was like, I want to grow as a leader. I don't want to remain stagnant. I need some outside counsel, some outside advice.
And yeah, I think that's an important distinction. As guys, we'll often find, you mentioned the car example, there's a specific thing I've used them in my home for, outlets and ceiling fans and, everything in a home that can go wrong. I don't know as much as I should about home ownership and maintenance. And so, yeah, guys will often seek out expertise in a specific area. But what men need to become more open to are these, call them gray areas of input. For example, advice, guidance, direction, caution, wisdom. These aren't really black and white areas.
Sure.
What is wisdom on a certain topic? What is caution on a certain topic? What is direction or guidance? It's like, yeah, it's very situational. And as guys, we often don't lean into receiving input when it's not a very clear outcome.
Which is why when it comes to romantic relationships, men are so hesitant to invite outside counsel. We view, I think just culturally, both within Christian culture and secular culture, I think we view romantic relationships as something that you should be able to just figure out on your own. It's all about, the experience and the chemistry and the being in love, and you'll figure it out. And this idea of being intentional and wanting to do it well, wanting to grow as a man who's leading a romantic relationship, that is viewed, I think, just across the board as odd, as weird, as strange, and potentially even in a negative way as weak and incompetent. And so men aren't looking for outside counsel to direct them, to help them navigate the many unknowns and complexities of a romantic relationship.
And, a guy should stop and think about, okay, if not for other men with experience, with wisdom, with knowledge, if I don't remain open to them providing input, what am I left to? My own life experience, which can be very hit or miss.
Which, particularly if they've dated a whole bunch.
Yes.
Dating more doesn't make you an expert.
Which is the paradox that a lot of guys don't realize. Often the more you do something, the better experience you have in that thing.
Sure.
Right? That's great. With dating and with relationships, it's actually the opposite. The more dating partners you've had does not make you better at that.
It's that classic trope, practice makes perfect. No, it actually is practice makes permanent. And so the bad behaviors and practices that you begin your first relationship with, without outside coaching, without someone from the outside directing you and helping you, you're going to continue to repeat those bad habits in every single relationship. And now what you're doing is cementing those bad behaviors when it comes to romantic pursuits.
So a guy should be able to look at his life, look at where he's at, and reckon with the idea that, okay, if I don't remain open or pursue outside input toward this, what's the alternative? It's left up to me, to my own ideas, my own life experience,
So dangerous.
my own thoughts, my own desires, and it's like, where's that going to get you?
And because of the chemistry, I'm talking like biology, that happens inside of a man when he's pursuing a woman. This is God designed. A man who is attracted to a woman, who's pursuing her, who has sexual interest in a particular woman, he instantaneously is no longer objective about his actions or his pursuit of her.
As he shouldn't be.
Yes.
Right? Because we know in marriage, your wife, your wife, your husband, should be subjectively the most interesting person.
Yes.
At that point, it's not some objective evaluation of, okay, who's the most interesting, attractive person at this point?
Exactly.
It's like, nope, you've made a choice, and now that person is the most attractive person to you.
And so here you have this man who's no longer able to be objective, who's caught up in the chemistry, the biology of the pursuit, and he's trying to evaluate and determine what is best with regard to whether he should pursue covenant or whether he should break up. And instead of people coming around him, other men coming around him saying, hey, you need support. You need an objective third party to look at your behaviors and your decisions, to be able to evaluate your pursuit of her, to evaluate your chemistry together, your compatibility together, and we'll give you that third party objective view. Culturally, we reject that and say, no, I have this. And not only do we reject it, as men, we view the idea of needing outside help as somehow weak. And it's like, no, as a man, I've got this. I'm the one marrying her, not you. I know that we're good together. You don't know that. And it's the classic excuses that so many men make in romantic pursuits where they're like, you just don't understand her like I do. Or like, you don't understand how I help her or how she helps me. And I'm like, bro, you know what I know right now is there's a whole bunch of hormones raging. And if I gotta bet on hormones or the Holy Spirit, I'm gonna bet on hormones every single day of the week. And hormones are not objective. They're not able to evaluate well. And that's why you need outside counsel.
There is the natural pursuit and desire when a man is pursuing a relationship that we on our own have a really hard time regulating. And within marriage, that actually is a good thing. There shouldn't be a governor on that. There shouldn't be something holding you back as you pursue your wife. And for her as, pursuing the husband. That's all by design. But, pre-marriage in a relationship, when a man's interested in a woman, there's very little naturally within a guy that's going to hold him back, which is the reason for outside input. Men need to have other men who can say, hey, great, do more of that. What I see there, that's great, do more of that. Wait, hold on, slow down here. Don't stop doing this. But as guys, we are very resistant often, or very hesitant to actually allow others to speak to us and kind of give us some guardrails toward that.
And I would argue that who you marry, getting married, is the second most important decision you will make in your life, right behind accepting Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And so out of all of the tens of thousands of decisions you will make in your life, marriage is the second most important one you will make. Why, as a man, would you not want to set yourself up for the greatest possible success when making the second most important decision in your entire life?
And that is something that is so important for men to wrap their head around. Too often we treat a relationship as another slice of the pie of our overall life. But no, to your point, marriage is actually the second most impactful decision a guy will make on his life. It's more impactful than the job he has. It's more impactful than where he lives. And I can tell you from experience, it's even more impactful than having kids or how many kids you have. Who you marry is actually the overall, by a large margin, the most impactful thing a guy will have on his life. And guys will think of, my career is super important and it kind of defines who I am. Okay, there's truth in that. Where I live, what I do, my hobbies, my peer group, my friends, my community, my church. Yes, those all have impact on a life, on a guy's life. But a spouse is head and shoulders more impactful on a man's life. And too often we treat it as, I want to get married, so that's just this part of my life over here. And then I have everything else. It's like, no, a marriage and a relationship are going to affect everything else you do.
And independence is oftentimes viewed as competence. But the reality is, that is not true. And in fact, I would argue that's a lie from the pit of hell when it comes to romantic pursuits and the pursuit of marriage. A man who believes he does not need any outside input is a man who's setting himself up for failure. And so often there are these classic lines of thinking that you see online or in our communities where men are angry and bitter at women. And they'll say things like, marriage is no longer good for men because of the high divorce rate, and she's just gonna leave you anyways. And, the divorce system favors the woman and she gets all your money. And there's all these bitter, angry men out there. Now, are there legitimate, tragic situations where the wife does leave the husband and arguably he may not be at fault? Very possibly. I'm sure there are. But if you want to lower your chances of divorce as a man, invite outside input into your pursuit of that woman. The issue is not women categorically. The issue is you as a man pursuing a woman who's not good for you, rejecting outside input, rejecting men who want to help you, rejecting truth, rejecting objectivity in pursuit of your own selfish desires and sexual drive. If you want to set yourself up for success in marriage as a man, stop rejecting the outside help that is being offered to you. Invite it, go after it, chase after it. That's what the entire book of Proverbs is all about. It's about a father speaking to his son saying, choose wisdom, go after wisdom, chase her. Don't chase the world, don't chase your desires. Choose wisdom. And that's what men need to do.
And to your point about independence, in Western cultures specifically, it's become very normal and it's become the ideal, the objective. And the truth is, men, we've taken this idea that independence is very helpful and needed in specific circumstances.
It is.
Life will have it that, there will be moments in time where a guy's back is against the wall, he's with his family in a very difficult situation, there's no one else around, and he's gonna have to make a decision, often in isolation. And he's gonna have to rely on his life experience, everything, his knowledge, his wisdom. There will be times in life where independence is necessary for a guy to kind of own that and not just wait around for someone else to come rescue and help them. But too often as guys, we like to embody that on the whole and think, okay, it served me well in this one area, I'm gonna carry this as a overall outworking of who I am.
And when it comes to a romantic pursuit, men will take it so personally when you bring to their attention poor behaviors or concerns in the relationship. But let's take a different avenue, like fitness. So you're going to the gym, you've hired a fitness coach to help you, and the fitness coach is like, hey, Josh, the way you're lifting this dumbbell is actually not healthy for you. You are going to injure yourself. You know what the wrong response would be? Would be for me to look at my coach and say, you don't know anything, you're just attacking me. If you truly knew me and my heart and my desires, you wouldn't say that. If you loved me and if you cared about me, that's not what you would say. You would say, I'm doing a great job and you support me. If you were a supportive coach, you wouldn't say that.
Do you even know how my body works?
Exactly. And we would look at that and say, that's crazy. But when it comes to a romantic pursuit, as soon as something's brought to our attention that we don't like, either about our behaviors or about the relationship itself, suddenly we take it so personally. And I've had this happen more times than I want to even count, where close friends of mine have been angry with me. I'm sitting across from them, sharing with them, being like, hey, I love you and I care about you, and this is why I'm sharing this with you. And I've literally had people tell me, if you were my friend, you would support me. I'm like, it's because I'm your friend that I'm telling you this. And what is so tragic is in almost every situation where I've sat down and had these conversations, fast forward a certain number of years, and either the marriage has completely fallen apart and is very broken and dysfunctional, or they're divorced. And I'm like, it's not that I'm, the matchmaker and I know what works, because I actually don't know what works. But I do know what doesn't work. And so when certain behaviors, when certain things are present in a relationship, particularly when there's an absence of outside counsel and advice, that relationship is not being set up for success.
Yeah. This is a pithy example, but my kids back when they were younger, they would, sit out in the backyard and they would create a little campfire. And the one time I'm out there and I see them, they actually got a pot from our kitchen and they're out there with this pot over this little campfire they had going. And they were throwing in dandelions. I think they poured some water in there. They sprinkled in some salt.
Yummy.
And they think they're actually making soup.
Yeah.
They legit were thinking, we're gonna make some soup.
Yep.
But to your point, it's we often will think, I can just do this on my own. I think I know what makes a good outcome. And too often, we're completely resistant to someone else looking in and being like, actually, that's not gonna work as well as we think it's gonna work.
I know that people will oftentimes push back, particularly on me, because I'm single, and because I've only ever been in one romantic relationship many years ago. People will push back on me and say, what do you know about relationships? And the thing is, it's not about what you know about relationships, it's what do you know about human behavior? What do you know about men, because that's who I work with? What do you know about the Bible? What does the Bible say, particularly the book of Proverbs? And can you take those three things and then objectively apply them to a situation? And what I know for me is this: I'm not objective about myself. I am extremely biased towards me. It's the worst. I think everything I create is the best. I think everything I say is the most pithy and the most poignant and the most impactful. Mm-hmm. And I think everything I do is right. I'm biased towards me. And so when it comes to pursuing a woman, or really anything in my life, I'm constantly turning to outside counsel and wisdom because I know that I'm biased towards me. Mm-hmm. And any man who believes he's not biased towards himself, towards his own selfish motives and desires, is a man who is deceived and lying to himself.
And we know, blind spots are a thing. And the lie is that we think we actually know where our blind spots are. But by definition, we can't see them. And anyone who's driven actually knows this to be true.
Yes.
You look in the mirror of the car, and there is that blind spot. You don't know that it's there, right? A car pulls into that area, and you can't see it because, by definition, it's a blind spot. And so in our lives, we have those. We have areas of our lives that we actually don't see well into or don't see at all. We don't know it's a blind spot. And that requires having some humility, some transparency, some vulnerability to allow other guys to actually look at us and say, hey, what am I missing? What am I not doing? What should I do more of?
Time and again, men will enter relationships and do it in an independent, I've got this kind of way. That relationship ends, they break up, they've got to go through their whole little breakup process and deal with their emotions. And they don't learn anything. What they learn is, well, she was crazy, or she this, or she that. They lay blame on the woman, when in reality, they should be laying blame on themselves for not having invited in outside counsel to help them process the decision. Men should be constantly seeking out wisdom, direction, input, allowing other men in their lives to ask them questions and to give them free rein to say, do you see anything in my pursuit of this woman or in my desire to pursue her? Maybe they should be going to outside counsel before they even pursue a woman to say, hey, is there anything you see in my life that you think needs to change? And this is my plan to pursue her. What are your thoughts? That's not a weak man.
Right.
That's a man who's being intentional and wants to honor the woman and his pursuit of her.
And it's not immediately visible on the surface, but any successful business, if you go talk to the owner of that business, there are times in the past where they bring in outside input, other more experienced business owners. Hey, look at my business, look at my operations, look at everything, what's inefficient, what's not working, what should I do more of? As the customers, as the outsiders looking in, all we see is a successful business. But behind the scenes, it actually is very intentional actions by the business owner to improve and make better what they have. And we need to treat relationships like that. If we're just to go at it alone, you look at any struggling business out there, and I can pretty much guarantee you the owner in some capacity hasn't sought out wisdom and advice, or at least implemented it from more experienced business owners.
This modern way of dating where it's independently driven, it's just the two of you, is a modern invention. Prior to really the last 50, 60, 70 years, all of human history, relationships were a community and family endeavor. And so you couldn't make an overture to a young woman apart from having multiple conversations with people in your life and her life. And then everyone knew, and everyone was involved, and everyone was watching, everyone was observing, and there were these protocols that were dictated by your particular culture and particular time period that you had to do X, Y, Z in order to eventually get married. But then somewhere along the way, in the last 50, 60, 70 years, we moved away from community and family relationship pursuits to individual pursuits, where many times young men or men in general aren't even going to the father of the woman to ask if they can marry her. They're just showing up and declaring they're getting married to the family. And then we wonder why there's such a high divorce rate. We wonder why marriages are so dysfunctional. We wonder why people are so lonely. We wonder why there's such a high rate of affairs and cheating.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because we've made it a selfish, independent pursuit. Me, my emotions, my wants, my desires. As opposed to inviting in the community and the family to help direct us, which I would say would set men up for more success.
And men are often most resistant to outside input when it is something that they most desire. And this goes for a lot of different areas. If there's a particular job that a guy wants, or if there's a particular region he would like to live in or move to, or a particular home he wants to buy, the list goes on. The more that a guy wants something, the less likely he is to actually receive input
So true.
or seek advice on it.
Yeah.
And we know relationships are very high stakes.
Yep.
They're very desirable. And so men naturally, the natural tendency of a man is to just avoid input. I want this thing. I don't want somebody to tell me otherwise.
Yep.
And so I'm not going to seek it out. But men need to remember that a relationship is the highest stakes decision other than salvation that he'll make.
One of the things that I've developed in my life is when I find myself not wanting outside input or wisdom or counsel, I then force myself to go ask for that.
Right. I mean, that should be the very flag that tells a guy, I actually need to seek out input here.
Exactly, because I know me. I know that I don't want it. And so to fight against my natural selfish urges, I say, oh, I don't want it. All right, let me just go do the opposite. Let me go get it. And I will tell you that approaching life that way has saved me from myself many times over.
And if more men did that, they would be able to minimize mistakes and regrets by asking better questions, seeking counsel earlier, and slowing down the emotional decision-making process.
We need to reframe how we view receiving outside counsel when it comes to romantic pursuits. I actually think it could be very beneficial for a man to hire a dating coach, providing that the dating coach is a believer and reputable and has their best interests at heart. But that's going to be the minority of men. The vast majority of men can just invite in, mentorship, discipleship, authority, accountability, call it what you want. You as a man can and need to invite in outside counsel into the romantic pursuit process, not because you're weak, not because you're incompetent, but because you recognize that in order to lead well, to pursue well, to set yourself up for the greatest possible success, like you would in any other area of your life, you need an objective third party to give you that input and direction to help you succeed.
And I heard some great wisdom a few years ago. This guy, he said, if a man has it all figured out and can do it all on his own strength and his own ability, he's actually not doing enough in life. And there's this tension. We should be able to handle life as it comes to us.
Yeah.
But if we're able to make every decision on our own, handle everything that comes our way, there's a very good chance we're actually not doing enough in life. By definition, healthy men should be doing so much in life that they actually can't do it all on their own. They actually need the wisdom and input from those around them.
And men will benefit from day one if they invite in that outside third party, whether it's a coach, a parent, a pastor, authority, accountability, a mentor, whatever they're classified as.
Yep.
If you invite them in from day one, you will set yourself up for success by avoiding so many pitfalls that just plague every man's romantic pursuits. And I think about a common issue that exists in many dating relationships today, just the endless dating.
Yeah.
It's hard to date for 5 years when you have outside counsel speaking to your relationship. I'll give a parallel example. I'm going to the gym with my fitness coach. It's going to be hard for me to keep at the same weight, doing the same exact exercise for 5 years when I have a coach there telling me I shouldn't do that. do this different exercise. This is better for your body. You need to change weights because doing the same consistent way, eventually you plateau. Doing the same way is gonna cause joint pain if you don't switch it up. But if I go by myself, on my own, I might think, yeah, curling the bar or the dumbbells this way is great, and I'm gonna do it the same exact way, same exact weight, same number of reps every single time I go to the gym. Very hard to do that for 5 years with a fitness coach. And in the same way, it's hard to just continually date endlessly when you have an outside counsel saying to you, hey, this isn't good. You should either break up or move towards covenant.
And as you just mentioned, it is very important for guys to understand the sooner you bring someone in, the better. And this is abundantly clear within marriage. With 16 years of marriage now, something that has proven true time and again is don't wait until the train is off the rails to bring in a marriage counselor. We seek out marriage counseling often, arguably not often enough, but what wisdom has shown time and again is that the sooner we bring in outside help, it doesn't have to be a world-ending situation. It can be something small. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But the sooner we bring in outside advice and input, often the easier and more quickly things resolve. If we only waited until things were really challenging, really difficult, and then it's like, oh, now we need to go get some help. Well, yeah, we do need help at that point, but also you should have gotten help a lot sooner. And men need to realize that that's actually true in relationships in general. Don't wait, bring in outside input, the sooner the better.
I love that, and I think that's a great place to conclude. So gentlemen, when we talk about coaching, we're not just talking about hiring someone with a title or a website, though that can absolutely be helpful. What we're really talking about is inviting in a third party into your decision making. Call it coaching, call it mentorship, call it discipleship, call it authority and accountability. The label doesn't matter. The function does. The reason people hire coaches is because a coach provides something you cannot give yourself: an outside, objective perspective, and the willingness to tell you the hard truth when you're emotionally invested, biased, or blind. And here's the key part. When you invite someone into that role, especially if you're paying for it, you're far more likely to listen. You slow down, you ask better questions, you actually take the advice seriously. You can get the same benefit, though, through mentorship, discipleship, godly authority, and a trusted accountability, and often for free. Men have done this for centuries. The problem isn't access. The problem is invitation. You have to invite people. You have to include them early, not after things are already a mess. You have to give them permission to speak honestly, especially when you don't love what they're saying. And most importantly, you have to heed their counsel, not just collect opinions that echo your own. If you're not going to let anyone challenge your thinking or confront your blind spots, then it doesn't matter how confident you feel. You're still navigating one of the biggest decisions of your life alone. And that's not strength. That's isolation. Wisdom has always involved counsel. Strong men don't outsource responsibility, but they do invite counsel, feedback, and correction. As always, we love having you here on the Ardent Pursuit podcast, and we look forward to having you here next time.